In this podcast episode, Ken Rideout shares an unfiltered and deeply personal account of his life marked by childhood trauma, addiction, and an obsessive drive for success. Through candid conversations, he explores the complex relationship between discipline, vulnerability, parenting, and healing. Ken delves into how his past shaped his relentless pursuit of validation through addiction and athletics, the impact on his family, his wife's recent battle with cancer, and his ongoing journey toward emotional mastery and spiritual growth. Ken reflects on growing up in a chaotic environment in Boston, surrounded by addiction, mental health struggles, and violence. His brother, who faced serious challenges including incarceration, became a focal point of Ken's fear of failure. The instability he witnessed fueled a deep aversion to mediocrity and a desperate need to escape that life. Despite the harsh realities around him, Ken was adventurous and dreamed of a different life, lacking positive role models and stability. The trauma he endured during these years laid the foundation for his future struggles and coping mechanisms. Ken's early adult years saw him working as a prison guard, underlining the intense and volatile environments he was familiar with. After moving to New York, he broke into finance despite being bullied and feeling like an outsider, eventually rising to notable positions on trading desks, including a stint in London. Alongside this, he began abusing cocaine and opioids. His addiction worsened after receiving opioids for an ankle surgery while grappling with imposter syndrome and self-doubt. This period marked the start of a severe opioid dependency that he masked behind his career success. Running became Ken's substitute addiction and coping tool after his initial attempts at sobriety. His obsessive drive led him to become a world-class masters athlete, winning endurance races and breaking records. Yet, this success concealed unresolved emotional pain. Ken's fixation on winning was an attempt to control his chaotic past and earn the validation he craved. Nevertheless, despite being the fastest in the world in his age group, he eventually confronted the realization that athletic success could not outrun his inner struggles and trauma. Ken openly discusses the difficulties of balancing his intense, disciplined personality with being a father. His extreme toughness and constant pushing strain his relationship with his children, who perceive him as crazy or overly aggressive. He is painfully aware of how his approach may burden them, and he wrestles with the desire to be a different kind of role model, one that offers calmness rather than intensity. The challenge of parenting amid his own internal struggles is a recurring theme, highlighting the difficulty of breaking generational trauma. Despite initial resistance, Ken engaged in deep trauma healing through intensive therapy at a trauma healing center, which provided him profound insights into his childhood wounds. This experience was transformative but also uncomfortable, forcing him to confront buried pain. Ken discusses his ongoing work in therapy as essential to finally addressing the self-destructive patterns that discipline and running never healed. He acknowledges that awareness alone isn't enough without persistent effort to integrate healing into daily life. Ken's marriage has been tested by his emotional struggles and addiction, yet it serves as a vital source of support. He describes episodes of lashing out due to his need for control, the highs and lows of maintaining sobriety, and the significance of mutual responsibility within the relationship. His wife's strength, especially through her cancer battle, profoundly affected him and reinforced the need to embrace vulnerability. Ken recognizes his wife as the true leader in their partnership, with her battle providing an example of courage and resilience to the entire family. Shelby's breast cancer diagnosis was a defining moment for Ken and the family. The experience exposed Ken's deepest fears and feelings of helplessness, juxtaposed with his instinct to regain control through planning and toughness. The family's journey through diagnosis, surgery, and recovery became a lesson in vulnerability, faith, and emotional endurance. Ken admired Shelby's fortitude and observed how adversity forced the whole family to confront fear and uncertainty, ultimately drawing closer and learning how to lean into faith and gratitude together. The cancer experience catalyzed Ken's interest in exploring spirituality beyond his Catholic upbringing. While not traditionally religious, he has begun exploring faith as a path to inner peace, inspired by his wife's deep engagement with her faith community. Ken recognizes a spiritual void in his life that his relentless pursuit of external achievements has masked. He shares his tentative steps toward embracing spirituality, including plans to meet with local pastors, striving for a balance between discipline and finding peace. Ken reveals that much of his drive stems from a lifelong quest for validation, primarily from his father, who himself struggled with trauma and identity. This need for approval shaped his aggressive, high-achieving persona. Writing the memoir and sharing his vulnerabilities is part of Ken's effort to release this hunger for external affirmation and to accept that the only validation that truly matters is from himself and his immediate family. This insight marks a turning point in his internal narrative. Living a public life through social media and the book release has introduced new challenges for Ken as he navigates anxiety about judgment and criticism. Though grateful for positive feedback, he struggles to detach his self-worth from others' opinions. He discusses efforts to avoid engaging with negative comments and the importance of emotional mastery over the compulsive urge to seek external approval. This ongoing effort highlights the tension between vulnerability and the harsh realities of public exposure. Throughout the podcast, Ken emphasizes discipline as the cornerstone of his life philosophy, describing it as the key to freedom and an antidote to emotional chaos. His win-or-die-trying mentality has propelled his achievements but also exacted emotional tolls. Ken candidly admits this binary thinking is difficult and unsustainable, but acknowledges it as his current method of coping with insecurities and fears. He advocates discipline as essential even for those not seeking extraordinary accomplishments, emphasizing personal accountability and consistent effort. Ken discusses the internal battle between ability and willingness, emphasizing that knowing what to do is not enough without the readiness to act. He highlights how pain and suffering often serve as catalysts for change, a universal truth he has observed in addiction recovery and life transformations. His experience coaching his adolescent son illustrates the difficulty of motivating willingness in others, yet he stresses the importance of seeking help and community support as critical steps toward healing and growth. Ken shares heartfelt reflections on the challenges of parenting, particularly with children experiencing their own emotional struggles and developmental stages. He speaks to the difficulty of witnessing disappointment and pain in his children while grappling with his own reactions and expectations. This complexity deepens Ken's awareness of how his behavior affects them and reinforces his commitment to breaking patterns of intensity and aggression through self-awareness and therapy. Ken candidly recounts the cyclical nature of his addiction, including multiple relapses and the shame that accompanies them. He emphasizes honesty about these struggles as crucial for recovery and for offering hope to others facing similar battles. His journey illustrates that sobriety is often non-linear, and maintaining compassion toward oneself is vital. Ken encourages viewers to seek professional support and community to overcome addiction, acknowledging his own limitations but sharing the strength found in persistence. While Ken's past was marked by competition and comparison, he has begun to redefine success as an internal journey rather than an external race. He speaks to the diminishing returns of persistent striving in athletics when paired with unresolved trauma. The true challenge lies in wrestling with oneself, cultivating peace, and embracing vulnerability, even when progress is difficult to quantify or publicly recognized. Ken values the role of friendship and community in his healing journey. He highlights the importance of having supportive peers who celebrate each other's successes and provide honest accountability. This connection contrasts with earlier feelings of isolation and competition, helping foster a sense of shared growth rather than solitary struggle. Ken stresses that discipline is a universal tool, not reserved for elite athletes or those with dramatic pasts. He encourages consistent, incremental effort in daily routines, health, and self-care as foundational to well-being. The discipline to take care of oneself ultimately benefits relationships and quality of life, emphasizing personal responsibility as empowering rather than punitive. A pivotal theme in the episode is Ken's aspiration to become the master of his emotions. Recognizing that emotional regulation is critical to overall health, he discusses the ongoing challenges of controlling anxiety, anger, and the impulses tied to past trauma. This mastery is framed not as suppression, but as conscious awareness and choice, representing the next stage in his personal growth. Ken confronts the discomfort of uncertainty, particularly around the release of his memoir and public feedback. Learning to detach from outcomes and external validation is a central lesson. Embracing not knowing and relinquishing control is positioned as essential for emotional resilience, marking a shift away from his previous compulsive need to manage every variable. Ultimately, Ken is motivated by the desire to break cycles of trauma and dysfunction within his family. The focus on healing childhood wounds serves both personal growth and the goal of being a better husband and father. This conscious effort to disrupt past patterns redefines strength as the courage to embrace vulnerability and seek healing rather than solely domination or control.